Because those 12 properties? I'd owned them for 3 years. My name is Tegan Porter, and I'm about to tell you how my golden child brother tried to steal an inheritance that was never his, only to discover he'd been living in my shadow the entire time. Growing up in the Porter family meant understanding your role early. My brother Marcus was the star, football captain, business degree from a prestigious university, engaged to a lawyer's daughter named Brittany. I was the one who couldn't quite figure life out. The family disappointment. It started when I was 16 and told my parents I wanted to study hospitality management instead of pre-law like Marcus. My father actually laughed. Tegan, be realistic. You're not exactly executive material. Maybe you should focus on finding a nice husband instead. Marcus chimed in at that dinner. Yes, sis. Not everyone can be successful. Some people are just meant to be supportive. I chose a state school for hospitality. They chose not to attend my graduation. The real fracture came when I was 23. I'd been working at a hotel in Miami, learning the business from the ground up. Marcus had just gotten engaged to Brittany and my mother was planning an elaborate engagement party. $40,000 worth of elaborate. Tegan, we need you to contribute, Mom said over the phone. Family helps family. I can contribute maybe $500, I offered. I'm saving for $500? Her voice dripped with disgust. Marcus said you'd be difficult. Your brother is building a real life, Tegan. The least you could do is support him properly. We're asking for $5,000. It's not that much. It was 3 months of my salary. I can't afford that, Mom. Can't or won't. She hung up on me. At the engagement party I wasn't asked to contribute to. I sat at a table in the back with distant cousins I'd met twice. Marcus gave a speech thanking everyone who truly matters, while looking directly past me. Brittany's parents were introduced as the family we always wished we had. The only person who caught my eye that night was Grandpa Harold. He was 81 then, sharp as ever, watching everything with those calculating blue eyes that missed nothing. He gave me a small nod from across the room. After that party, I stopped attending family events unless Grandpa Harold specifically asked me to come. My parents called it abandoning the family. I called it protecting my mental health. I visited Grandpa Harold every Sunday though. We'd have breakfast at his favorite diner, the Early Bird in Coral Springs. He never asked why I wasn't at Marcus's birthday parties or my parents' anniversary celebrations. He just listened while I talked about work, about my dreams of running my own hotel someday. You've got something Marcus never will, Grandpa told me one Sunday morning when I was 25. You understand that respect is earned by doing the work, not by demanding recognition. The family doesn't see it that way, I said. The family sees what they want to see. He sipped his coffee slowly. But I see you, Tegan. I've always seen you. What my family didn't know, what I deliberately never told them, was that the little hotel job I had was actually an assistant manager position at a boutique luxury hotel in Miami Beach. And I was exceptional at it. At 26, I identified a struggling property that was about to go into foreclosure. A beautiful Art Deco building with 45 rooms that just needed vision and capital. I'd been saving aggressively for 3 years, and I'd built relationships with investors through the hotel industry. I bought that property for $2.1 million with a combination of my savings, investor backing, and a commercial loan. My family would have called it reckless. I called it calculated. Within 18 months, I'd transformed it into the Deco Pearl, a 4-star boutique hotel that became the darling of travel magazines. Revenue jumped 340% in the first year. But I never told my family. Why would I? So they could suddenly be interested in my life. So Marcus could give me condescending advice about managing my little hotel? So my parents could find reasons why I owed them money for all those years they invested in raising me? Well, I built my empire in silence. By 29, I owned 4 boutique hotels across South Florida. By 31, I'd expanded to 8 properties with a total portfolio value of $47 million. I employed 340 people, maintained a 4.8-star average rating across all properties, and had been featured in Condé Nast Traveler's 30 Hoteliers Reshaping American Luxury. My family thought I was still working as an assistant manager at some hotel in Miami. I never corrected them. Every time I saw Grandpa Harold, I showed him the real numbers. He'd look at the financial statements and property valuations with pride gleaming in his eyes. You did this yourself, he'd say. No one handed you anything. I learned from watching you, I told him. You built a real estate portfolio from nothing. You taught me that buildings and land are the only things that hold real value. Grandpa Harold had built his wealth the same way, buying rental properties in Florida before the boom, holding them through the crashes and building steady wealth through discipline and patience. By the time I was 32, he owned 12 single-family rental homes across Fort Lauderdale and Coral Springs, worth approximately $5.8 million total. Marcus, meanwhile, was working as a regional sales manager at a medical supply company. Good job. Decent salary. Nothing extraordinary. But in our family he was still the golden child because he had a traditional career, and was married with 2 children. At Sunday breakfast 3 months before Grandpa Harold died, he slid an envelope across the table. "What's this?" I asked. "Legal documents. I'm updating my will. I want you to know what's coming." "Grandpa, we don't need to talk about." "We do." His voice was firm. "Because I know what Marcus and your parents expect. And I know what you've built without expecting anything from anyone. Open it." Inside was a copy of his new will. The 12 rental properties were left to me, all of them. To Marcus he'd left $50,000 cash in his car. To my parents, cherished personal items and $25,000 each. "Grandpa, this is going to cause problems," I said quietly. "Good. Let it cause problems. You're the one who visits. You're the one who calls. You're the one who built something real without asking me for a dime, even though you knew I'd have given it to you." He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "They're going to be angry, Tegan. But you've earned this and you're strong enough to handle their anger." He died 6 weeks later. Heart attack in his sleep. Peaceful, the doctor said. The family immediately assumed Marcus would inherit the rental portfolio. No one even asked me. They just assumed. The will reading was scheduled for 2 weeks after the funeral, held at Sherman and Associates, the law firm that had handled Grandpa Harold's affairs for 30 years. I arrived 10 minutes early, wearing a navy suit I'd purchased for a hotel industry conference. My mother looked me up and down with barely concealed disdain. "Tegan, you came." She said it like she was surprised I'd shown up to my own grandfather's will reading. Of course I came. Marcus walked in with Brittany, both dressed like they were attending a board meeting. He clapped me on the shoulder hard enough to make it condescending. "Hey sis, don't worry, I'll make sure you can visit the properties whenever you want. Family's family, right?" I smiled. "That's generous." My father was already sitting, talking loudly about what Marcus should do with his inheritance. "The Coral Springs properties need new roofs," Dad was saying. "You could increase the rent after renovations. Probably pull in an extra $2,000 per month across all of them." "I was thinking of selling a few," Marcus said. "Get some liquid capital, maybe invest in Brittany's law practice expansion." They were spending money that wasn't theirs yet. If you've ever been the family punchline, hit that like button and subscribe right now. You're not going to want to miss what happened next. Harold Sherman III, the senior partner and Grandpa Harold's longtime attorney, entered looking uncomfortable. He was 67, impeccably dressed and carrying 2 folders, one thick, one thin. "Thank you all for coming," he began. "Harold Porter was my client and my friend for over 30 years. He was very specific about his final wishes." Marcus was already smiling. Mr. Sherman opened the first folder. "To my son Robert and daughter-in-law Patricia, I leave all personal effects including my coin collection, war medals and photographs. Additionally, I leave $25,000 each from my savings account." My mother's face tightened. 25,000 wasn't nothing, but it wasn't the millions in property. "To my grandson Marcus Porter, I leave $50,000 from my savings account and my 2018 Cadillac sedan." Marcus's smile faltered. "Wait, what about the properties?" "I'm getting to that," Mr. Sherman said, and I watched his eyes flick toward me nervously. That's when Marcus stood up. "All 12 rental properties in Florida go to me," Marcus announced like he could will it into reality. "Tegan gets nothing, she abandoned family. She barely visited. She was never there." Everyone nodded. My mother actually said, "That's right." I just smiled and placed my folder on the table, the one I'd brought with me, the one containing 3 years of documentation. Mr. Sherman's hands shook as he read from Grandpa Harold's will. "To my granddaughter Tegan Marie Porter, who has proven through her actions, dedication and character that she understands the true meaning of family and hard work, I leave my entire rental property portfolio consisting of 12 single-family homes located in Fort Lauderdale and Coral Springs, Florida." The room went silent. Then Marcus exploded. That's insane. She doesn't even have a real job. How is she going to manage rental properties? This has to be a mistake. There's no mistake, Mr. Sherman said quietly. This is bullshit. Marcus shouted. I'm contesting this. Tegan manipulated him. Actually, I said calmly, sliding my folder across the table to Mr. Sherman, there's something everyone should know. Mr. Sherman, could you please confirm the transfer dates in those documents? The lawyer opened my folder. His eyes widened as he scanned the first page. Then the second. Then the third. Oh my God, he whispered. What? Marcus demanded. What is that? Mr. Sherman looked at me and I nodded permission. His voice was steady but shocked as he read, these are property transfer documents. All 12 of Harold Porter's rental properties were sold to. He paused, looking at me again. To Tegan Porter. Beginning 3 years ago. My mother's face drained of color. What? Grandpa Harold sold me all 12 properties over a 3-year period, I said calmly. Fair market value, structured payments, all properly documented and recorded with the county. The will Mr. Sherman just read? It's technically bequeathing me properties I already own. That's impossible, Marcus said, but his voice cracked. You don't have that kind of money. You work at a hotel. I own 8 hotels, Marcus. I let that sink in for exactly 3 seconds. My company, Porter Hospitality Group, has a current portfolio valuation of $47 million. The 12 properties Grandpa sold me were integrated into my real estate holdings. I've been managing them as rental properties while paying Grandpa an annuity from the profits, which gave him steady income in his retirement. Brittany actually laughed. A sharp, disbelieving sound. That's absurd. If you were that successful, we'd know about it. I pulled out my phone and turned it to face the room, showing the Forbes website. There was my face in a photograph from 8 months ago. 30 hoteliers under 35 reshaping American luxury. Oh God, my mother whispered. You're lying, Marcus said desperately. Those documents are fake. You forged them to steal from. Mr. Sherman interrupted. Marcus, these documents are real. They were properly notarized, recorded, and filed. I have copies in Harold's estate files because he wanted me to have them in case this exact situation occurred. He looked at Marcus with something like pity. Your grandfather sold these properties to Tegan because she was the only one with the capital and competence to maintain them properly. Why? My father's voice was hollow. Why would he do that? Because I visited him every week for 10 years, I said quietly. Because I called him on Wednesdays just to talk. Because when he had surgery, I was the one who drove him to appointments and stayed overnight to make sure he was okay. Because I loved him without wanting anything from him. We loved him too, my mother protested. Did you? When was the last time you had breakfast with him? When was the last time any of you called him just to see how he was doing, not to ask for money or complain about your lives? Silence. You want to know why he sold me those properties? I continued. Because 2 years ago, Marcus, you came to him asking for $80,000 to invest in a friend's startup. Grandpa said no. You called him selfish and didn't speak to him for 7 months. Marcus's face went red. That's not. Mom, you asked him to co-sign a $45,000 loan for a kitchen renovation. When he declined, you told him he was hoarding wealth from his own family. Dad, you wanted him to give you 3 of his rental properties outright so you could manage them and keep the income. He refused and you didn't visit for a year. That's not fair, my mother said, but her voice was weak. Grandpa kept a journal, I said softly. Every interaction. Every phone call. Every request for money. Every holiday he spent alone because you were all too busy. Mr. Sherman, would you like to read from the letter Grandpa left for the family? The lawyer pulled out another document, this one handwritten in Grandpa Harold's distinctive script. He read, To my family, if you are hearing this letter, it means you are confused or angry about my decisions regarding my estate. Let me be clear, I gave my properties to Tegan because she earned them. Not through birthright or expectation but through presence, love, and character. Marcus, you are a good man, but you have always expected success to come from what others give you. Tegan built her success alone, never asking for help, and still made time to be with an old man every week. That is why she has everything. That is why she deserves everything. If you are angry, look inward. I loved you all, but I respected Tegan. There is a difference. My mother was crying. Marcus looked like he'd been punched. Then Brittany spoke up, her lawyer instincts kicking in. This still doesn't add up. How did you afford to buy 12 properties worth millions? Where did that money come from? Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from tonight. I started buying properties from Grandpa 3 years ago, I explained. The first 3 I purchased outright from my hotel profits. For the remaining 9, Grandpa held the mortgages himself, seller financing at a fair interest rate. I made monthly payments while managing the properties and sending him the rental income minus expenses. He used that money for his living expenses in retirement. You were paying him? My father asked, stunned. Every month. $1,200 per property on average, plus all rental income. Over 3 years, I paid him approximately $520,000 total. I pulled out another document. Here are the bank transfer records. Mr. Sherman reviewed them and nodded. These are legitimate. So Grandpa didn't just give you the properties, Marcus said slowly, like he was trying to find an angle. You bought them. Yes. Then the will doesn't even matter. You already own them. Correct, Mr. Sherman confirmed. The will was Harold's way of making his intentions publicly clear to the family. He wanted everyone to understand that Tegan earned this. Marcus slammed his hand on the table. This is insane. You stole our inheritance. No, I said, my voice sharp for the first time. I bought properties that Grandpa chose to sell to someone he trusted. You're not entitled to other people's assets just because you're related to them. That's not how inheritance works, and it's definitely not how respect works. We're contesting this, Marcus said, looking at Brittany. You'll lose, Mr. Sherman interrupted. And I'm going to be very frank with you, Marcus. If you pursue legal action against Tegan over property she legitimately purchased, you will spend tens of thousands in legal fees only to have a judge dismiss your case. Your grandfather was of sound mind. The transactions were legal. There is no case. Then he was manipulated, my mother burst out. Tegan took advantage of an old man. Mrs. Porter, I've known Harold for 30 years. He was sharper at 84 than most people are at 50. These transactions were his idea, not Tegan's. That's when my father said something that revealed everything. But what are we supposed to get? We're his children. We deserve something. You got exactly what Grandpa thought you deserved, I said quietly. $25,000 each and his personal effects. That's more than I got from you growing up. The room fell silent except for my mother's quiet crying. Then I stood up and gathered my folder. For what it's worth, I'm not angry at any of you. I'm just done. Done trying to earn love from people who see me as less than. Done being the family disappointment when I've built something you can't even comprehend. Done pretending that blood relation means I owe you anything. Tegan, my father started. I'm not finished. My voice was calm, but every word carried weight. You taught me exactly how much I was worth to you. I just raised my price. You mistook my silence for acceptance, my absence for failure. But I wasn't hiding. I was watching. Every dismissive comment, every time you chose Marcus over me, every time you made me feel small, I was gathering evidence of who you really were. That's cruel, my mother whispered. No. Cruel was excluding me from family events. Cruel was telling a 16-year-old girl she wasn't executive material. Cruel was demanding $5,000 I didn't have to celebrate a brother who called me a disappointment. I didn't respond with cruelty. I responded by becoming someone who didn't need your approval. I turned to Mr. Sherman. Is there anything else that requires my presence? No, Miss Porter. We'll handle the estate paperwork through standard channels. Then I'm leaving. Marcus, Brittany, Mom, Dad, I wish you well. I genuinely do. But you won't be hearing from me again unless it's through my attorney. I was halfway to the door when Marcus shouted, You can't just walk away. We're family. I turned back one last time. No. Grandpa Harold was family. He showed up. He believed in me. He earned the title. You're just people I happen to share DNA with. There's a difference. As I reached for the door handle, it opened from the outside. 2 people I recognized entered. Detective Sarah Chin from the Fort Lauderdale Police Department White Collar Crime Unit, and James Morrison from the IRS Criminal Investigation Division. Tegan Porter? Detective Chin asked. Yes. We need you to stay for a few more minutes. We have some questions for everyone in this room. My stomach dropped. What's this about? We've been investigating financial irregularities related to Harold Porter's estate. Specifically, we found evidence of attempted fraud. Marcus went pale. Mr. Sherman stood up slowly. What kind of fraud? Detective Chin pulled out her own folder. Much thicker than mine. 3 weeks before Harold Porter's death, someone attempted to have him declared mentally incompetent and transfer all his assets into a trust controlled by Marcus Porter. The documents were filed with forged medical evaluations and a notary stamp that doesn't match any registered notary in the state of Florida. Everyone's eyes turned to Marcus. That's insane, he shouted. I didn't. We have your signature on the trust documents, Mr. Porter, Agent Morrison said. We also have email correspondence between you and someone calling themselves Dr. Rebecca Hamilton, discussing payment for medical evaluation letters declaring your grandfather incompetent. Rebecca is Brittany's paralegal, I said quietly, the pieces clicking together. Brittany stood up so fast her chair fell backward. I had nothing to do with this. Marcus, what did you do? We have your work email address in the correspondence chain, Mrs. Porter, Detective Chin said. The emails were sent from your law firm's server. I want a lawyer, Marcus said, his voice shaking. You married one, I said, but there was no satisfaction in it. Just sadness. Detective Chin continued. We're also investigating a series of unauthorized withdrawals from Harold Porter's bank accounts in the 6 months before his death. Approximately $47,000 was transferred to accounts belonging to Marcus Porter and Robert Porter. My father's face went gray. Those were loans. Dad said I could borrow. We have the bank records, Agent Morrison interrupted. Harold Porter reported these transfers as unauthorized to his bank 2 weeks before he died. He filed a formal complaint. Oh my God, Mr. Sherman whispered. That's why he called me. He said he suspected someone was trying to steal from him, but he wanted to be sure before making accusations. Hit that subscribe button if you've ever had to set boundaries with toxic family, because what happened next destroyed everything they'd built. Detective Chin arrested Marcus and Brittany right there in the conference room. Financial fraud, attempted exploitation of an elderly person, forgery, identity theft. The charges kept coming. My father was arrested the following morning at his home. My mother wasn't charged criminally, but she was named in the civil lawsuit Mr. Sherman filed on behalf of Grandpa Harold's estate to recover the stolen funds. The newspaper coverage was brutal. Local sales manager arrested for attempting to steal deceased grandfather's estate. The story mentioned Marcus's attempt to have Grandpa declared incompetent and the forged documents. It mentioned Brittany's involvement as an attorney who should have known better. It mentioned my father's unauthorized withdrawals. And it mentioned me, the granddaughter who'd built a $47 million hotel empire in silence while her family dismissed her as a failure. Within 48 hours, Marcus and Brittany's bank accounts were frozen as part of the criminal investigation. Brittany's law firm suspended her pending review. Marcus was fired from his job for conduct unbecoming, after his employer saw the arrest on the news. Within a week, they'd listed their house for sale, a desperate attempt to pay legal fees. They couldn't find a buyer at their asking price. The market knew they were desperate. Brittany filed for divorce 3 weeks later. The court papers cited irreparable breakdown of trust and criminal conduct by spouse. She got primary custody of their 2 children and Marcus got supervised visitation. My father pleaded guilty to a reduced charge of financial exploitation of an elderly person. He received 2 years probation, mandatory restitution of $47,000 plus interest, and 500 hours of community service. His reputation in his professional community was destroyed. Marcus went to trial. The evidence was overwhelming: emails, forged documents, financial records, and testimony from Grandpa Harold's actual doctors who stated he was completely mentally competent until the day he died. Marcus was convicted on 6 counts including fraud, forgery, and attempted theft. He was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison. Brittany took a plea deal, testifying against Marcus in exchange for charges against her being reduced to professional misconduct. She was disbarred and sentenced to 1 year in county jail, suspended to probation. Her legal career was over. My mother never apologized to me directly, but she sent a card 6 months later. It said, "I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know I finally understand what Harold saw in you. I'm sorry I didn't see it too." I never responded. Some wounds are too deep for a greeting card to heal. 2 years after that, while reading, I was sitting in my office at the Deco Pearl, my flagship hotel in Miami Beach, when Mr. Sherman called. "Tegan, I wanted to let you know that all the estate proceedings are finally complete. The criminal restitution has been paid and Harold's estate is closed. Thank you for everything, Mr. Sherman. There's one more thing. Harold left a sealed letter for you that I was instructed to deliver only after all the legal proceedings concluded. I have it here whenever you're ready. I met him at his office that afternoon. The envelope was thick, addressed in Grandpa Harold's handwriting. For Tegan when the dust settles. Inside was a 3-page letter dated 2 weeks before he died. My dearest Tegan, if you're reading this, it means everything has played out as I suspected it would. Marcus tried something stupid. Your parents probably enabled him. And you've had to endure watching your family self-destruct over greed. I'm sorry you had to see that. But I'm not sorry for the choices I made. I sold you those properties because you were the only person who understood their real value. Not as assets to liquidate but as foundations for building something lasting. You proved that you could build wealth through intelligence, hard work, and patience. You never asked me for shortcuts or handouts. You earned every single thing you have. Marcus was raised to believe he deserved success. You were raised to believe you had to earn it. Only one of those philosophies builds character. I know you'll feel guilty when Marcus faces consequences. I know you'll wonder if you should have handled things differently. Don't. His choices led to his consequences. Your only responsibility was to protect yourself and what you built. The properties are yours. The hotel empire is yours. But more importantly, the life you've built without needing anyone's approval. That's yours too. That's the real inheritance. Keep building, Tegan. Keep being the person who shows up. Keep proving that strength doesn't require cruelty and success doesn't require validation. You already made me prouder than Marcus ever could because you did it yourself. All my love, Grandpa Harold. I left you one more thing. Check with Sherman about the storage unit key. It's the Art Deco furniture collection I promised you'd appreciate someday. It'll be perfect for that hotel lobby you were designing. I cried reading that letter. Not sad tears, grateful ones. The furniture collection was worth $180,000 and absolutely perfect for the Deco Pearl's lobby renovation. Grandpa had known I'd need it before I did. Today I own 14 boutique hotels across Florida and Georgia. Porter Hospitality Group employs 520 people and has a portfolio valuation of $89 million. We're expanding into Charleston next year. The 12 rental properties Grandpa sold me are still part of my real estate holdings, professionally managed and providing steady income. I kept them because they remind me where I came from and who believed in me when no one else did. Marcus got out of prison 8 months ago. He's working as a night manager at a discount furniture warehouse. We have no contact. Brittany moved to North Carolina and works as a paralegal under her maiden name. She sends me Christmas cards with photos of my niece and nephew. I send them gifts but I don't respond otherwise. My parents sold their house to pay legal fees and restitution. They live in a modest apartment now. My father's health declined after the probation ended. They're not struggling but they're not comfortable either. I don't wish ill on any of them. But I don't have room in my life for people who only valued me when they thought I could give them something. Last month I had dinner with Mr. Sherman and his wife at the Deco Pearl. We toasted to Grandpa Harold's memory with his favorite bourbon. He'd be so proud, Mr. Sherman said. You turned his faith in you into an empire. I just followed his example, I said. Build something real. Show up for people who matter. Never apologize for being successful. And never let anyone make you feel small, he added. Never again, I agreed. If you've ever had to walk away to save yourself, tell me your story in the comments. What would you have done? Does any of this feel familiar? And if you've ever been underestimated by the people who should have believed in you most, hit that like button because you're not alone. You never were.